Lately, I've been reading more into philosophy, specifically relating to absurdism and existentialism, and I just finished Albert Camus's work, The Myth of Sisyphus. I know most people have likely heard about this. I feel like it's very prolific, especially among the self-help community. And after I finished this book, there was one quote that really stuck out to me among many, but it was, if two men live the same number of years, the world will always provide them with the same sum of experiences. It is up to us to be conscious of them. Being aware of one's life, being aware of one's freedom, that's what living really is. To me, that means that we must be conscious of our own lives and that we must be aware of our own mortality. Because there are those who simply live life and those who live life consciously. And that segues me into another quote later in the chapter, which was, there will never be any substitute for 20 years of life and experience. And for me, feel like this especially relates to the community of self-help and self-personal development, because I feel like a lot of the time, a lot of the self-help community can get caught up in, quote, living the correct way and living the correct life. And I feel like many people will miss out on experiences based upon following that doctrine. For instance, me, I have been watching and reading self-help books since I was about the age of 15. For me, it's been incredibly helpful, especially with developing social skills, relationships, friendships, success. However, I feel like personally I have not grown more than in my life than I have just in the past 2 years. And the reason why is because I feel like I've started living more. And I feel like that's especially understated in the self-help community. I think a lot of the time people are like, hey, listen to me. I have the answers on what you need to be doing to be living your best life. And for me, I feel like I've learned the most just by experiencing and living life through failures and through relationships, through friendships, through just trying new experiences. I have learned a lot of these lessons that a lot of people in the self-help community have taught, and I've also dispelled some of them and learned that they simply just don't work for me. And I think that's one of the keys, is that everybody is unique and everyone is different. And I think one of the problems, especially with a lot of people who are leading and who are dominant in the especially men's health and men's mental health, men's self-improvement community, is that many of them discuss their way of living, their way of life, their way of thinking as fully correct. And it negates the fact that everyone is unique and everyone has their own unique preferences and needs. And it's not to say that a lot of these concepts aren't helpful, because many of them are. However, for me, I feel like I have learned these lessons and I actually understand them more through making the mistakes and just living life. Because I feel like there's no substitute for just getting out in the world and having these failures, having these experiences. And there's no amount of watching any sort of self-improvement content, any sort of self-help videos that I think can really substitute for that. And I think especially, even if the lessons are valuable and correct, I found that when you're not doing it upon your own volition and you're not doing it for yourself and you're doing it because you think that's what you should be doing, you don't fully believe it. And to give an example, one of the big things in self-help community is, hey, you've got to stay in, you've got to work, you've got to make sure you go lone wolf, you're not, you're locked in your room, in your desk, working on your business, working on your purpose, and you need to forego a lot of these pleasures. For me, for instance, I'm a college student. There's lots of parties, lots of social events, quote, degenerate behavior, and I think that you need to have those experiences for you to realize that that's not what life is all about. Because for me, I feel as though, and this is just for personal experience, I feel as though if I did not have those experiences, I would always have that fear that I missed out on something. And I don't think it takes long to necessarily realize that a lot of these bad habits like excessive drinking, going out, partying, not focusing on whether it be school, whether it be your purpose, neglecting those things, I think it doesn't take long for you to figure that out. But when you do, I feel as though it's a lot more helpful because for you to experience it yourself, because you know that you're not being lied to. You know that this is actually what works for you, that that's something you actually want to do. It's in the sense that I think a lot of the time in the self-development world, just getting a quote 9-to-5 job, being a career person is very much looked down upon. You know, it's always entrepreneurship. And I do think entrepreneurship is fantastic. And I think that any young man who wants to pursue that should strive for that. But it definitely will not work for everyone. And not everyone is cut out for that. Not everyone wants that. And some people just want to be able to live a good life, have a family, whatever it might be. And I think those people should be allowed to do those things without feeling like they're being persecuted against or feeling like they're making the wrong decision in life. And I really feel like many people just blindly take what a lot of these gurus, what a lot of these people who are leading this industry and leading this space take what they say just at face value without really applying and testing whether or not this works for them. And I think that's really unfortunate because, once again, I feel like everyone is very much a unique person. And it's not in the sense that you should just go and start being, you know, an absolute idiot, just a fuckhead, you know, ruining your life. But it is in the sense that you need to make mistakes to truly learn and to truly grow. And even though I've probably sunk in months, hours, days, weeks into just consuming self-improvement content, whether it be books, whether it be videos, whether it be podcasts, lectures, I don't think any of it can even compare to just the past year. Learning about relationships, learning about friendships, learning about getting outside of my comfort zone. And that's all been done through experience. And I think what a lot of people are doing is they're taking what a lot of these people are saying just at face value and not actually seeing if it works for them. And I think the biggest message that people in general, what I want people to take from this video is just that you need to take risks. You need to get outside of your comfort zone. You need to actually apply a lot of what you're learning, whether it be things related to relationships, friendships, and don't listen to anyone on the internet blindly. I feel like that's easier said than done because I feel like a lot of these people are also saying that, but then they have a cult following and they proclaim what they think and what their doctrine is on life is the correct way to go. And so it just contradicts that idea of don't listen to me. And I think that's really shady and slimy for people to do that. I think that everyone should be allowed to make their own decisions. I think it's definitely something where everyone should attempt and make that effort to improve their life, but I found that many people are doing it blindly as opposed to forging their own path. You know, a quote from David Goggins, I'm sure most of you guys have heard about him, was be your own hero. And don't look up to anyone in the sense that become the person you look up to, become the person that you admire, and become the person that you yourself look up to. And that's been one of the most helpful quotes, helpful pieces of advice that I think I've ever read in any sort of self-development, self-help book, if you will. And it's definitely been very crucial, and it's definitely made me a lot more skeptical about a lot of these people who are proclaiming to have what's in my best interest. And it's definitely in the sense where I've laid out my own values. I've laid out who I want to be as a person, and I strive to be that. And I think that, and if that doesn't align with what a lot of these gurus, what a lot of these people say, then that's not something that really deters me, because I am going to become who I want to be. And I feel like people, especially in the self-help community, need to have more autonomy as opposed to looking up to all these people and striving to, quote, be like them, because I think that's a very toxic way of going about life, and it's really unfortunate because it takes away your own individual uniqueness, your own gifts, your own autonomy. And I think that's something that everyone needs, because everyone is very different and unique in their own ways and has their own gifts and skills that they can offer the world. And I think it's definitely something where people just need to learn how to forge their own path versus trying to blindly follow advice because they're lost. And I know that's hard, because if you're lost, you need guidance from somewhere. But I think that you can get a lot of that guidance and sort of find your way, find your direction through experiencing. It's kind of like how when you first get to college, you take a lot of general classes. You take a lot of, like, a wide scope of classes, most of which don't even apply to what you're getting a degree for. And the reason why is because they want you to experience different subjects, different learning environments, different schools, so that way you can see what you actually resonate with, what you actually want to do. And it's a perfect example of how experience matters over just reading about different things, because most people obviously research what degree they want to go into. However, a lot of the time when they get into that degree, they find out they absolutely hate it. And that's really unfortunate, because I feel like people don't apply the same rule to life. People just think, oh, well, I need to meditate, I need to do cold showers every day, I need to journal every morning, and not all these things are going to work for everyone. For me, like, I love journaling and going to the gym in the morning. I've found that, like, cold showers is just not something I want to do in the morning, and I'd say 3, 4, 5 times a week, I will meditate at night, and that's been really helpful. But it's one of these things where everyone needs to find what benefits them, because once doing the good habits, the quote good habits, take away from your enjoyment of life, I think that's problematic. And it's not in the sense to not have discipline, because, going to the gym, it's fun for me, but, like, for some people that's really painful. It's not fun at all, and you still need to do it because better health. However, I think a lot of the time, especially with the less essential things that are supposed to improve your life, I think people blindly will follow it because they think they should, when in reality, if there's something else that works better for you, that's probably what you should be doing. I think it's really unfortunate, because I think so many people have been led astray by just being lost and trying to find answers. And a lot of people, not most people, but I would say a good amount of people who are in this space are definitely driven by money, other motives, whether it be like status, and everyone acts in self-interest, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I think, like, the only person you have is yourself, not in the sense you should walk all over people, but it's definitely just be wary about who you're listening to. Something that I found is, I've also found that reading books on philosophy and just classic works have been a lot more helpful than a lot of the self-help books. And I think the more you read self-help books, I don't know if any of you guys have noticed this, but for me at least, the more that I've read them, the more that I've realized that a lot of them just say the same things but in different ways. And it's only rarely now, it's becoming harder and harder, but every so often I definitely will get a book that's very life-changing in terms of the perspective it adds to my life, and that's always fantastic. I'm always very grateful for that. But it definitely makes me question the industry as a whole more, and I think this new outlook/experience about how I view self-improvement is definitely changed, just because of this new philosophy that I have regarding that you should be living more than you're trying to improve, if that makes sense, because that is where the actual growth will come from. And so if anyone has to take anything away from this video, because I'll probably make more on topics related to philosophy, different subjects, different things that I've learned, just because I want this channel to be just a place where I can almost like journal, but because I've made a couple videos and that was like 3 years ago, and I feel like I'm a completely different person since then, which I'm pretty happy about, but the only reason why is because I've lived more, I've done more, and I could have very easily not went out of my comfort zone, not chosen to live my life, chosen to follow all of these things and not try things for myself. And I would just, in my personal opinion, what I think would have happened is I probably would be a worse person, because I feel like I've learned so much, and I just feel as though as I'm like aging, as I'm maturing, I'm able to just have a much more balanced perspective on life, and I'm able to, I guess, view things more analytically, more objectively. But if there's anything that I want you guys to take from the video, it's definitely just be sure you're living your life. Don't just stay in because you think you need to. Go out, have friends, go out of your comfort zone. Even if it's just like a hobby that, you know, a lot of the self-help community doesn't really view as like valuable, like whether or not, you know, you enjoy to paint, whether or not you enjoy photography, you know, try out different things in life, you know, go on dates with people, make new friends, even if they're quote degenerate, obviously within reason, you know, don't, if somebody's an absolute shithead and they're terrible for you, don't be friends with them, but, you know, be friends with different types of people. It's definitely helped me because I feel like I employ a very wide breadth of friends, different types of people, and it's been absolutely critical for my growth, you know, getting different perspectives on life. Don't just sit in your own echo chamber, and I think a lot of the times people relate this to politics, but I think that it's especially important even just for friends, you know, don't be friends with people who just let you be complacent, be friends with people who challenge you, and not just in the way that you think you need to be challenged, you know. It definitely needs to be like wide, because I feel like, you know, challenge is definitely something that's emphasized in the self-help community. But, you know, even if someone just challenges you to become better at photography, not just like at the gym, you know, that's really helpful too. And I feel like people don't value each person's individual gifts as much as they do. You know, if you're really good at, you know, accounting, or whether or not you're really good at engineering, whatever subject it might be, you know, follow and pursue that. Don't just feel like you have to do something or go into something because people tell you need to. Don't just feel like you have to grow in the way that a lot of these gurus, a lot of these people say that you need to grow. You know, everyone grows in different ways. Definitely do what's best for you. You know, take this with a grain of salt. You know, it has to be within reason, but, you know, definitely just live your own life. Appreciate your own gifts and value yourself, because I feel like people are trying to create almost like a homogenous person, a homogenous man, if you will. You know, a man who goes to the gym, who's always stoic, who, you know, has his business. And, you know, I think people are a lot more unique than that. I don't think they're that two-dimensional. So definitely just keep being yourself. Keep pursuing what is actually helpful to you, because that's what's going to take you the furthest in life. And that's, I think that's about it. But until I see you guys next time, peace out.